behind closed doors.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
This is Beer and B Movies. I'm Jason.
And I'm Michael. And today we are going to talk about Laserblast. And we're sitting here drinking New Holland Dragon's Milk Reserve. It's the raspberry and hibiscus Dragon's Milk. It's from New Holland Brewing. They're out of Holland, Michigan. It's a lovely bourbon barrel-aged stout with raspberry and hibiscus.
Cheers.
It's delicious.
Yeah.
There is a little booziness on the nose, almost like a bourbon-soaked cake. But it's smoky, a little smooth.
It's got a nice dragon on its label. A perfect drink if you're going to discuss Laserblast. You probably want some alcohol in you.
Laserblast, 1978, correct?
Yes, 1978. And this came the spring after Star Wars. I thought the lead in this movie was Mark Hamill.
The lead is actually
Kim Milford.
Who was in Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yeah. Rocky Horror Picture Show. The Broadway theatrical. Yeah, not the movies.
The Broadway, the theater, might explain some of his acting. Now that I think about it, yes, that would explain some of the expressive acting. Roddy McDowall's in this.
Yeah, Roddy McDowall.
Small role. I wonder if he has a band family friend or something. Yeah. And Keenan Wynn. Keenan Wynn is a known commodity.
Yes.
He was at that time.
Eddie Deason, Eugene from Greece. I think this was one of his first movie. I mean, it might not have been the first movie he shot, but I think it was probably the first movie that was released with him in it. And he plays a bully, so against character.
He's a nerd bully.
Nerd bully.
He's like the nerd friend of the bully.
Yes.
Like, he would not be a bully if he was on his own. Was it Chuck?
Yes.
Chuck is the big...
Chuck and Froggy.
Big Chuck and Froggy. Yeah. Chuck is sort of the big, beefy meathead. Kind of, there was a Matthew McConaughey vibe from Dazed and Confused.
Yeah,
except like a bulkier version and a bigger bully. Ron Masak, M-A-S-A-K,
yes.
Who plays the sheriff in this. He is also the sheriff after Tom Bosley and Murder, She Wrote.
And then another sad story, Cheryl Smith. She played Kathy, Kim Milford's Billy's girlfriend. And she made a lot of movies in the 70s, like B movies like Lamora, Caged Heat, Massacre at Central High. And then she kind of disappeared, and I looked her up, and she had a kind of sad story. She was an addict, kind of disappeared. Early 80s, you stopped seeing her. She passed away in her 40s from health issues related to the addiction, and she did a decent girlfriend role in this. Lamora.
Let's make fun of some of her work now.
Yeah, I know. Now I feel horrible. One of the deputies, Dennis Berkeley, plays Deputy Pete Unger, and we see him like everywhere. Wasn't he in Mask?
I think he was in Mask. I think he was in many Dukes of Hazzard episodes.
Exactly.
He's a heavy-set guy with a beard, plays a biker, could play, a redneck. Yeah, he was in the 80s. He was just everywhere.
And then they were kind of like a Laurel and Hardy vibe going on with those police officers.
You got the comic relief, the duo, and yeah, you're right. The heavy set, the skinny.
David Allen did that stop motion, and that's one thing that I was enamored with the movie was the turtle aliens.
This is a B movie, no doubt about it. But that was actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
and I know a lot of people nowadays would look at that and just laugh, but we didn't have everything.
No,
and I was 4 when this came out, so it's like I wasn't even wee. This was actually pretty cool. Yeah. I thought it was well done. They did with the backdrops. They did what they could. I don't think the budget was very big, so they had people who were talented on this.
Yeah. When it starts off, you have a alien figure dragging himself across a desertscape, and you have these turtles, this UFO come in.
I'm gonna jump in real quick and say it's clearly a human. Clearly a human figure.
He's with green skin.
With the green skin and the gun on the end of his arm, some strange gun on the end of his arm. Then we see the aliens. Yeah. Now, go ahead. I apologize.
Yeah, no. That's exactly like the aliens show up and they zap him. It leaves a carbon outline, scorched earth on this desert. Surprisingly, it doesn't destroy the necklace around his neck or the laser gun. This is when you realize this is not an alien planet. This is Earth, because a prop plane flies by, scares the turtle aliens, And they hightail it out of there.
Which is sort of the first question. I mean, what is up with the turtle aliens that they have these very powerful weapons? They're hunting down this creature with the gun on its arm, and then they get scared of the little crop duster plane or whatever it was.
Because why don't they shoot the plane? If this person was so important they had to destroy, like, why not finish the job?
Or just walk over and get the stuff and say, whatever, plane, what are you going to do? We're powerful. Like, because I believe the person with the gun on his arm shoots them with his gun, and it does nothing to them.
No.
And then they shoot him back, and he disintegrates. So, hey, we didn't make the movie.
We didn't.
The turtle aliens go, get into their thing, and slowly, that's what I really like, is this, they're slowly rise up and slowly fly away.
To our hero, played by Kim Milford, Billy Duncan. And he rolls out of bed, and he rushes outside. You're assuming his mom, because later on a reference is packing up. He does the sad trombone face. I don't know how old he is. Is he a high school kid? Is he... Because if he's a high school kid or younger, I could see, okay, this could be an issue. But if he's 16 or over, or if he's just a young ne'er-do-well hanging out home post... high school, not do anything, because clearly later on there's reference that his mom has money.
That should be a great day.
She turns around and says, oh, and he's like, where are you going? She's like, I got invited to Acapulco, because that happens all the time. You're just going to leave your kid. She might have left a note for him on the kitchen sink. We don't know. She is taken off to Acapulco and leaving him behind. And this is to start off with Billy's bad day, because he seems really sad about it. But to me, he has a roof over his head. He's a teenager, and his mom is one parent, because we have no reference about his dad.
The classic Southern California guy who's got the world by the tail.
There's nothing wrong with his life. We should point out for a younger audience that it was very common for men to walk around the 70s without shirts on. Far more common than it is
Casual
nowadays.
shirtlessness was acceptable.
Yeah.
If you're working outdoors, it's one thing, but if you're going to the mall, put a shirt on.
His first thing he thinks he's going to do is he's going to get up and he's going to bother his girlfriend. He shows up at his girlfriend's house. Her grandfather that she lives with suffers from dementia. And he starts going on and doesn't like Billy, is talking about some paranoid delusion about Operation Sandust and all these things. And Billy is a nice kid. Well, shucks, I'll just leave, Colonel. Well, one, clearly this is really early in the morning. Billy's shirtless. The grandpa and his girlfriend Kathy just misses him. They have nighttime attire on like it's wintertime. She's wearing full pajamas.
She's got like a heavy flannel, full length that I think they got from the Little House on the Prairie. It's like what the mom would wear to bed in Little House on the Prairie. And through all of this, you get the impression you're in like the southwest of the United States. I know it gets a little chilly in the evening, but you're in a house. There's no reason to be wearing this very heavy. Curious. And once again, her home life, she lives with her grandpa. Yeah. Do we ever find out what happened to her parents?
No.
They're very down on parents in this movie. They don't like parents.
This is a teenager movie. Like, the parents are the Peanuts adults.
But we don't even have parents to hate on.
No.
Parents don't even exist.
Yeah. Even Billy's mom, she doesn't seem mean.
No.
Like, I'm sure she's the type of mom who left them a couple bucks laying on the table. It's like, hey, take care of yourself.
And Acapulco, I believe it was work. Like, it was a work thing. She got invited. She's like, she's got to go do the hustle to keep all the money that people are telling you she has. Keep you in your cool van and your no shirts. It costs a lot of money to keep you shirtless, Billy.
So first, like we said, mom leaves him. Girlfriend won't see him. So he's going to take off and he's going to drive around. And of course, he gets pulled over by the Laurel and Hardy, the comic relief cops.
Runs afoul.
Yeah.
These guys, they got it in for him. He's got a white van with gigantic Bigfoot footprints on the side.
Hard to miss.
Yeah, it's a little conspicuous. But they see him. I don't even think he was speeding, or maybe, but they're like, that's Billy. So they pull him over. He's like, what do you want? They're like, hey, Billy, your mom can afford it, blah, blah. Here's a ticket. What are you ticketing me for?
For being you, Billy.
Yeah, give me another ticket.
Yeah. But once again, very polite to the police. There's no talking back or fighting.
You do sense some frustration.
Yes.
That I think is more to say this happens a lot. And people just see his mom as a piggy bank. Like, it's a podunk little town. Her money's kind of keeping the lights on at the police station. So he's bumming.
So check mark.
This has been like, third.
Third thing.
Strike 3.
So then he says, I need something cold to drink. I'm going to pull into the gas station, grab myself a soda, and there he runs into Chuck and Froggy. Chuck the town bully and Froggy,
His sidekick.
his sidekick. And
the guy who'll kick you after Chuck beats you up and knocks you down. Froggy's the guy who comes in and kicks you.
Yeah.
He's that guy.
Exactly.
He's that guy.
They challenge Billy to a race.
Billy's driving this just sort of nondescript van, other than the big footprints on the side, which I'm sure he's proud of, and then the odd handhold right behind the driver's door. I've seen a lot of those vans, and there's this hand, and they use it. So I figured out what the usage was. They hold on to it and they lean against the van, but they want to race. They go, "Hey, race us in your van." He's like, "Yeah, I'll race," and it doesn't start.
No.
So what's his solution? Get it started and drive out into the desert.
Yes.
That was one of the things I noticed was my stalled van. I finally got it to go. I'm just going to book it out to desert.
He heads out to the desert. He just happens to pull up right next to that charred mark on the ground and finds... What are we going to call it? The laser blast? I mean, what's our appropriate word?
Laser blaster?
Laser blaster.
Is that? I think that's that.
Okay, let's
going
use laser
forward,
blaster.
That's the laser blaster. I think,
and
it's going to
necklace.
laser blast you.
Yes,
but it's a laser blaster.
That's true. So
It's like the laser blast is the verb. Is that the verb?
So we'll refer to it as a laser blaster. And he finds that necklace, which looks like a hand grenade.
I think it's worth noting just the scene because he finds the gun. First, he holds it backwards.
Yes.
He holds it backwards, and this is where you get a little glimpse that Billy might be a little behind because he acts sort of like a 5-year-old, like jumping around. He's pointing it backwards, and then he figures it out, and then he gets his arm in. Well, it doesn't do anything at first, and then he's just pointing, and he's like, I imagine in his head he's going, "Oh, this is what I do to the cops, and this is what I do to Chuck and Froggy."
Yeah.
Because the gun doesn't work on his arm. He sticks his arm in the thing, and it doesn't work. And then he finds the necklace. You need the two together.
Yes.
The two things have to come together.
The laser blaster.
It's sort of like the staff and the headpiece of the staff of Ra. You need the two to be working. So he finds that, and whoa! Laser blasting ensues. Out in the desert, Billy cuts loose with his new toy.
Lets all that anger out, blasting shrubs.
There is a little bit of like the attempt of the James Dean,
yes,
you're tearing me apart. But he's out there, he's taking his rage out, but he doesn't seem angry. He's very giddy.
No, he's happy
the way
to have
he's
laser
taking
blaster.
it out, which is maybe telling.
So Billy's bad day of these 4 bad things ends on a high note because he finds a laser blaster. And who doesn't want to find a gun laying out in the desert and take it home? Don't report it to any authorities. Another point is that he's wearing his famous blue shirt in that scene. Because that blue shirt, that's important because usually it shows up again and again regardless of what other wardrobe he's wearing for that day.
When there's maybe laser blasting.
Maybe when there's laser blasting, he has to be wearing that blue shirt.
I will say, though, you find the gun, it would be very cool, but now that I've seen the movie, it's not as cool. Remember the first person we saw with the laser blaster. They did not look like they were having a great time laser blasting.
He has a date with his girlfriend in the park, and he's really trying to smooth it up. He's laid out sleeping bags and a rug. Something's going to happen. The van doors are open. He has a nice table with a little table setting of wine. That's why I'm curious of how old they are.
It was the 70s. And he could have just taken wine from his mom. She's rich. She might have a wine cellar.
That's true. And then we see Kathy rolling up on her moped. And she's looking around, and I love to see because she looks right in the back of the van and doesn't see him. But that's where he's hiding. I mean, that's her problem. She looks at him like, "Billy!" And then she turns around and he jumps out and scares her. Because, like you said, he's Arrested Development, a little kid-like.
Yeah, there's something a little off in his personality.
But this getting back to your thing, because she's like, Billy, like, there's something so dark inside of you. And you don't see it at all. But she says stuff during this scene, which, what you know of Billy right now, she says stuff that makes no sense. You have not seen that character at all.
But it does. It does now. Some of his behavior, he's not acting his age. And we're going to set up this lovely thing, then hide in the van and scare you. Like you would do to your little brother. He's a strange person, this Billy.
Let's assume Billy finds that laser blaster mid-morning, 10 o'clock. She already notices a spot on his chest where that necklace sits. Already it's having an impact on him. They decide to eventually go to Freddy's party.
Is this what you're suggesting? That if the laser blaster hadn't been found, she might not be saying, "There is something so dark inside you"?
No, I'm thinking that she probably would have said that anyways.
that Billy's behavior outside of laser blasting is odd enough to warrant saying, There's something not quite right with you, bud.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and yet,
it's not just the laser blaster, the spot. Now because he's been beset.
No, I think Kathy noticed something beforehand. She saw.
She loves him, but there's maybe I can love the weird out of it.
Exactly. And she asked him, "Why can't you be more ordinary?" And I'm thinking, he's the most ordinary kid that you've seen so far. So the stuff she says at that time, what are we not seeing?
And it's the opposite. The young ladies in these movies they're usually looking for the bad boy.
And he is vanilla.
He is vanilla, and he's bad in the worst way possible because it's infantile. It's not like he's cool, risk-taking guy. He's like, I'm going to go in the desert and jump around with a stick that looks like a gun. He's like, dude, that's not really what we're talking about when we're talking about sort of the bad boy. You're gonna play stick guns and you're 16, 17.
Yeah, exactly. And we should talk that Kim Milford and Cheryl Smith were, I think, in their late 20s filming this movie.
Oh, it would have been because died at 37 in 1988.
Yeah.
So he would have been.
Yeah, and she died in 2002 in her late 40s.
So it's like a 90210. You're casting teens, but you need people in their 20s.
Yeah.
Because they're mature enough to play immature teenagers.
Exactly. We go back to the Turtles. And they're in space.
Oh, yeah.
Clearly they've screwed up because their leader appears on the video and he's squawking and chirping and he shows a video. So clearly they have a camera
It's a wonderfully placed camera.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's a low angle, like somebody's standing on the ground
taking videos of Billy shooting that gun,
laser blasting in the desert, jumping around like a little frog. And he says, you guys need to about face. You didn't do your job. And those two, they're sort of looking at each other like, and then literally making you turn in space. It was fantastic to see. And I just thought, what were they expecting? I mean, they have to be aware of the camera angles that their superiors have. Yeah. And that they were sent to do a job, and they didn't do it. They thought, we're just going to go home, and they're going to be like, good job. No. You left the laser blaster, man. No. And now there's this weird kid has it. And you got to go back. Got to go back and finish your job. And they act sort of chagrined. I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah. Why are you talking to us about
this? And they do a wonderful job of expressing all the things. Because I know that's exactly what happened
exactly.
in that scene. It's some of the best movie making in this movie. Because I know exactly what's going on. The superior is sitting there with the horizontal thing in the background and the screen. The screen. Yes. I was bored. I went back again watching it, and I was like, I really studied the stuff in the background to see, all the neat little things they had. But I knew exactly what was going on. That was some nice filmmaking because there aren't words; they are going. And that's sort of the sounds. I think I do a pretty decent impression of.
No, you do. You sound just like them.
And that's all they're doing. But we know exactly what's going on.
So the best acting in the movie takes place with the turtle aliens.
And they turn around. So we know they're coming back. Yeah. We know we're not done with them yet.
And if I'm trying to keep chronology right, this is still day one. So they left the Earth at the beginning of the day, and now their big boss man tells them to turn back around. These creatures have interstellar flight. They're smart. The whole idea of leaving that laser blaster, these two don't seem like they're doing their job very well.
They might be the two cops.
That's what I'm thinking.
Of the alien
cops.
The alien race. They're the two no good cops.
To the end of the day, and they're at Fanny's party.
I've been waiting for this party for a while. The person who hasn't been waiting for it is Fanny. Yes. Because Fanny has all these people at her party, and she's pouting about the cake, over the cake, and that nobody would be there if she didn't have a pool. Yeah. I'm not from Southern California, but I know a lot of people have pools. Pools are pretty much dime a dozen. Yeah. But she's sitting there. She has this great party.
I know. And she's moping.
Just pouting.
Sad trombone the whole time.
Sad trombone. And here's something I found funny is that no parents again, but she has a cake. There's a cake, and my experience, like teenagers, there's going to be a bunch of beer, but nobody's going to be like, we need to get Fanny a cake. Chuck and Froggy are there. They got their own grill, and they're doing, what is it, hot dogs?
Yes.
Is it hot dogs?
They're red hots.
Red hots. Yeah. And then this, I don't know if we know her name.
No, I refer to it as the Tease T-shirt, because I think eventually
she wears a Tease shirt.
She wears a Tease shirt, and she goes topless in a scene in this.
Yes,
just
you
at
see
least
it
to
from the
Billy.
side.
See it from the side.
Yeah, and Billy doesn't know how to react.
No,
Again,
exactly.
Not much of a teenage boy.
No.
Who's like, oh, I've got a topless, attractive woman. So she's sort of, the sexy lady.
Yes.
She walks over, and there's Froggy, there's Chuck, and they're like, hey, Red Hots, get your Red Hots. And she looks at Chuck, and she goes, I heard it's not so high. And then she walks away laughing. Chuck does not take this well.
He's a bully.
This attack on his manhood. So he just walks over, and in sort of a mean way, very hostile way, just walks over and kind of shoves someone aside, I believe, and then just pushes this woman into the pool.
Chuck's a brute. And this scene goes downhill because Billy is taking a nap. Kathy...
Feeling lazy. I think he actually says,
yeah.
I'm lazy.
Yeah, I'm lazy. He's just laying there. He doesn't react to the topless T-shirt woman. He did at the very beginning help Fanny actually cut up the cake. He's sitting right next to her as everybody's getting cake. And it's strange because it's one of those TV shots where everybody's on the one side of the table, like no one's on the other side.
Yeah.
But he wakes up, it's getting dusk, and he asks Fanny, he's like, hey, have you seen Kathy? She's like, oh, she went in the house and changed. And he walks into the house. He can't find Kathy. And eventually he finds her, and Chuck and this scene was jarring. Like Chuck and Froggy are assaulting her.
Yes, they're not taking no for an answer.
They're not taking no for an answer.
They're raping her.
Yeah, exactly. No. And Billy goes into action. He starts swinging at Chuck. It's a horrible scene. I asked you to watch the scene and just focus on Froggy, Eddie Deaton's character.
I did.
Because,
yes.
And I hate to laugh at a scene like that, and it's horrible. But I don't know who was telling him, but he's throwing himself away. like he does. I'm not sure he knows how to do a fight scene. Probably not. He's very young. This is his first movie, but he's being like thrown off, and he's exaggerating being thrown off.
Yes,
at all. I mean,
it reminded me of Patrick Stewart in Excalibur.
Yeah,
when he's trying to pull the sword out of the stone, and he can't. He just goes, ah! Yeah. Throws his arms up. Then they're going to leave, and Chuck gets up and grabs him. And then she grabs a tennis racket, hits him. I don't know how she knocked him out, but she hit him, knocked him out, and they left. And that was, the most positive way that scene could have ended. Billy
comes back in complete laser blaster mode in his blue shirt, and he blows up Chuck and Froggy's car.
That is where we really start to see the choices Kim Milford made as an actor. When he puts on the laser blaster, it starts making his skin go like ashen, a green.
Yes.
We see the eyes change. These really, disturbing contacts are in. Later, I think we get the teeth. The teeth really become more pronounced later. Yeah. But right now, it's just this green skin, and he's standing up on this hill above the house. Does these odd gesticulations where his arms are flailing about and back. And he's pumping the laser blaster, mind you, adds about 3 feet onto the end of his arm.
Yes.
That should be pointed out.
Yes.
That it's his arm, and then it goes into the sleeve, and then it goes out at 2, maybe 3 feet from his arm.
Yeah.
So he pushes it, pumps it in the air like he's pumping up the jams, and he does all these strange interpretive dances. And he's doing that, and nobody really notices him, but we see him. Pretty clear he's up there. And I found this interesting. When he blows the car up, Chuck's in the car. He doesn't like Chuck, but he doesn't blow it up until Chuck gets out. He waits, Chuck gets out of the car, then he blows it up, and everyone goes, oh dear, that wasn't good. We move on.
And I think Billy's good side of him is still
hasn't been
fighting.
Completely taken by the laser blast. There's still a bit of Billy. The Billy that was still playing in the desert with his stick gun, but it was really a laser blast, still in there.
Day 2 starts at the sheriff's office. Mr. Tony Craig, secret agent man, shows up to the sheriff's office. And the sheriff, of course, he's sitting up there with his feet up, smoking a cigar. And Tony Craig walks in. Number 1, put that cigar out. Get on your feet.
Take your feet off the desk.
Yeah, exactly. Stand up.
And the sheriff just takes it.
Because he shows him Tony Craig shows him his ID, and all of a sudden the sheriff's like, whoa, you're Mr. Bigwig.
Still think he backed down a little quick.
He's like, I want still off, and I want any news going on, as if the sheriff controls the news.
I don't think there's a lot of news. No. This is pre-internet. I think that part would be pretty easy because nobody's really noticing the laser blasting that was going on in the desert.
No.
The guy in the plane who flew over the aliens clearly didn't report it. Didn't say, I saw a spaceship and some aliens laser blasting.
Exactly.
In the desert. That nobody ever took that seriously.
No.
Tony Craig was okay. All he needed to do, you got to keep people in the town. First, did anything weird happen? Oh, not much. Just a car blew up.
Yeah, Tony Craig immediately jumps to seal off the town. That's where you go when you hear about a car explosion in a small town. Kathy has come to Billy and says, Billy, we need to go to the doctors. That spot in your chest looks awful. It looks... And he's like, I feel silly, Kathy. She's like, no, I'm going to drive you to the doctors. And Rodney McDowell plays a doctor, probably worked in this movie for like an hour, like a weekend. You see that spot. He's like, okay, Billy, let's look at it. He's like, oh,
It's big.
The doctor, he's perplexed.
It's on the center of his chest. It's raised about, it looks like half an avocado size.
Yes.
And then there is a hunk of metal right in the middle of it.
Also showing immaturity. If I had a giant sore on my chest, that the middle part is turning into metal,
I'd bite the bullet.
Yeah.
I wouldn't just go get some tea tree oil and call it a day. I would definitely seek out a professional.
The doctor, he's one of the first adult characters that you come across that he actually cares for Billy. And he says, do you mind if I remove this? And so he removes that hard metal piece, snaps a bandage on Billy, and sends him on his way. And this is a bad sign for the doctor.
Well, because he needs to get some tests done.
Yes.
That he calls his buddy.
Mike is his buddy's name. Yes.
Mike is some sort of pathologist or something. Scientist. I don't know.
Scientician.
But he doesn't mind staying at his office until midnight because the doctor, for some reason, can't get there until midnight.
No.
So he calls and repeatedly tells him,
you have to stay.
Stay there until midnight. I won't be there until midnight. I have something you need to check out. Midnight rolls around. There's the doctor driving down the road, dark out. Oh, there's something, and then we see Billy.
Billy's getting worse. Billy's in his blue shirt.
He's in the long sleeve blue shirt, open, chest exposed. The green skin is really only on the neck up because they didn't have enough money. And the teeth, he's got nasty teeth, big shiny point teeth. Lo and behold, he knows where the doctor is. Yeah. He knows where the doctor's going. Yeah. He knows where to stake out the doctor.
Yes.
And he knows to shoot his car.
And blow the doctor up.
Because he's going to take him to Mike. Ooh, spoiler alert. It wouldn't matter if the doctor took this thing to him. Because Mike can't figure anything out.
Nothing about this.
I mean, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but it's like Roddy McDowell died because I think he had to be elsewhere. Poor Mike. Yeah. It's 2 a.m. They show the clock. Mike's still there. Someone's walking down the hallway. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that guy makes a weird reference
to my inner battery or something like that. I think he must have been like the uncle of somebody on the movie.
There's a clock in the background. It's 2:15 in the morning. And Mike finally calls.
Mike is a good guy. I mean, he said, I'll be there after midnight. It's like, I'm bailing. 12:45, I'm out.
Mike calls the sheriff. He calls someone on the phone and says, hey, contact the sheriff. The doctor hasn't shown up. I see Billy's transformation to take revenge on the people who mistreated him, but the doctor didn't mistreat him. Like, the doctor is the only adult that you think, like, really cares for him in the movie, and he kills him. But you're right, because Rodney McDowell can only be in the movie for, like, he's like,
I'm contracted for this. You ain't getting squat beyond that. Tony Craig finds the accident before the sheriff, and he picks up the piece of metal. He sees it and slips it away into his coat.
That's the beginning of day 3. That's the first scene, because it's night, and then it's morning, and they're at the accident scene. And you're right, he puts that away and he tells the sheriffs, you know what? We're running out of time. So he knows something. We don't know what he knows. It's hard to explain what he knows, but he says, time is running out.
He's very reticent. He's not giving us much.
They're at that scene. They decide... He's basically, anybody who went to the doctor in the last 24 hours, I want that list.
There's some pretty good detecting he does there.
Yeah. He's got some detecting. Yeah. More than a sheriff, because that should be the sheriff's first thing, is like, someone killed the doctor, let's see who he met.
He wants to know who's at the party, now he wants who's been to see the doctor.
His list down.
Yep.
Even though that briefcase should be doing some detecting, it should point him in that direction too, but he's fighting on two fronts.
You would hope so.
Detective work, science. The deputies are sent out to bring Billy into the station. They pull over Billy. The deputy Unger really feels that Billy knows what's going on, and he assaults him in the back of the
Goes
car.
on about old school, new school, and my school, and then punches him in the groin.
Yeah.
They think he killed the doctor, so he just assaults Billy, which is pretty much the end for him.
That's it. Billy's
crazy laser blaster. Billy it decides, you know what? I'm not going to put up with this anymore.
I agree. And Billy is wearing a very tight sailor's shirt. He's in a detective. He's now brought to the sheriff's station after the assault. And
by the way, his tight shirts don't reveal the huge lump on his sternum.
No.
At no point do you see that. You know, he doesn't choose to go with baggy shirts. He goes tight shirts. Until they open the shirt, you don't notice this huge lump on his chest. Picking on some continuity from the movie Laserblast isn't fair, but
No.
it's everything. Everything's fair game.
But at the sheriff's office, he says, "Oh, I went to the doctor. I had something removed from my chest." They're like, "Oh, can we see it?" I don't think it's much. It lifts up. Everybody's like, "Oh my god!" Like the expression, everybody's like, "There's something wrong with you, kid. Like, put that bandage on and get out of the station."
Well, it really was because the metal replaced itself.
Yeah.
And then Billy, he really looks humiliated. I mean, you sort of feel for the kid at times because the heavyset deputy really reacts
Like, ugh. Like he's gonna lose his lunch.
Yeah.
It's so disgusting.
Yes, and it kind of is.
Yeah.
So they're like, "Oh, okay, Billy."
Yeah, we're done questioning you.
They sort of tell the deputy, dude, cool it. And so they let him go.
They let him go, and they say, "Hey, do you want to ride home?" He's like, "No, I'm okay."
Oh, I love that part. I love that where you don't say, "Do you want to ride?" Because they just took this kid, drove him God knows how far. You don't say, "Do you want to ride home?"
You take him home.
You tell those guys, you take him home. This poor kid's gonna walk home.
He's just kicking the dust in the cans next to the sheriff's station
Yeah.
as he's sad tromboning down the street. Tony Craig visiting Science Guy Mike. And there's this
Why he doesn't have his own secret government scientist. He's going to the same guy the local doctor is using, Mike, who's, claim to fame is he's a pushover. So he'll stay until 2:15, and that's where we get a great montage of scientific stuff going on.
looking at printouts, pushing buttons, peering into microscopes.
Swirling chemicals in beakers and giving the "I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you" look.
The montage makes it sound like it's most of the day, and he finally is like,
"I've run every test."
Yes, it's inorganic. And it's not from this earth, and it's growing. But Mr. Tony Craig, Secret Agent Man's response is, "Have you found anything to destroy it?" They are literally just looking at this thing. Why would Mike think of, I should figure out a way to destroy this? I haven't been asked.
That's how science works.
But he's like, I'm going to destroy it.
Here's something we haven't seen before. First thing we need to do is figure out how to destroy it before we learn about it. And Mike said, "I've run every test I know."
Mr. Tony Craig, Secret Agent Man, leaves and he picks up his cellular phone, mobile phone device in his car, and he calls some number and says, "Emergency Alert 1. We know that maybe this is a big deal." I mean, a 1, maybe that's the top of the scale. There's no reference to what Tony Craig is doing this whole time.
We don't even know who he works for.
No. He could be
We know he can
Joe
flash a
Schmo.
badge. Yeah, he can flash a badge and intimidate some podunk sheriff, and he's got white wall tires, and that's all we know about Tony Craig.
We don't know anything. We don't know.
He walks confidently in pretty much any setting. He's very comfortable in his own skin.
Billy's last day begins. Begins in the park with his girlfriend. They have sex, and it's a really odd shot because it's a really close up of them kissing, like a really odd shot.
The music is very different from any music we've heard, and I don't know if it was meant to be artistic. It wasn't graphic.
No, not at all.
But it was uncomfortable because I don't need to be that close to anyone's face.
It was uncomfortable,
so
and you're right. It was not sexual at all. There's nothing graphic.
The music was very sweet. It was very pedestrian. I've seen more graphic on network television. Isn't this where she comes across, Billy's leaving the necklace laying out.
And he's sleeping.
He's sleeping.
Post-coital, he's lazy.
He's lazy, he does. He likes to sleep.
He's a lazy teenager.
So she finds the necklace, she goes, here's a weird necklace. I think I'm going to set it on Billy. And she sets it onto his wound where the metal is. That activates the blasting. He opens his eyes. His eyes are changed. The teeth change. Skin is changed. She screams. She's out of there.
And he actually gets up, and it's funny because in the background he lumbers around and he runs into the van. It looks like he passes out and falls on the ground. It's a really weird scene. Chuck has a new car, and they're driving. They're listening to some cool tunes. There's a lot of this driving scene going on. They see a plane take off. But Billy, who was in a small town, was on a laser blasting rampage, is now in the middle of the desert. Mm-hmm. And somehow that plane, which you believe what Tony Craig called, knows exactly where Billy is. Chuck and Froggy saw that plane. It's taken off, and it's in the desert now, and it's going to shoot and kill Billy. At least that's why I put together. It was really hard until I watched it a couple times. You know, they have a sharpshooter in that plane, and they take pot shots at Billy, and he's at, it almost seems like the exact same place that he found the original laser blast. Mm-hmm. Of course, the plane cannot stand up to any laser blasting.
No, it dodges it for a while. And Billy does the fist pump in the air with the laser blaster a number of times to show, I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm Billy. I need to be acknowledged. And they go back, they shoot him once, and he's still okay. He's still there with his laser blaster. And then they dodge that bullet enough times, and they get laser blasted.
That's it for them. And Billy Olsen, who was in the middle of the desert, is now back in a green area next to a freeway. And Chuck and Froggy, of course, bullies to the end, don't realize it's Billy, and they think they're going to mess with some guy who's hitchhiking. They're like, yeah, it's going to be fun to mess with that creep.
Yeah.
You know? And it turns out they recognize it's Billy at the last moment, and he blows them up.
He takes them out very well. There's a flaming car, it's burning, then it blows up.
That's when all of a sudden Billy gets a ride with the hippie, and he's back.
A nice guy, just a VW bus. He pulls up, says, hey man, you need a ride. He picks up this hideous monster with the giant gun on his arm. And then he does talk a lot. And I don't know what he's saying. I watched it 2 or 3 times trying to figure out the gist of his story. I think he's just sort of an acid burnout kind of guy. But he was harmless, you know. And Billy blows up a Star Wars billboard.
That's one of the most iconic scenes of the movie when he's with the hippie. Is they come back and they see a Star Wars. It's not even a billboard. It's just a sign. Yes. And he blows it up. And it's the second reference to Star Wars in the movie. Because
Froggy saw it 5 times.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And the Deputy Unger pointed out.
So he blows up the Star Wars sign billboard thing, which is clearly a way of saying, hey, Star Wars isn't real. This is real.
This is real.
This is very similar to what Wes Craven did. And I think The Hills Have Eyes. There's a Jaws poster. And then it became this back and forth thing with him and Sam Raimi, because Sam Raimi had a Hills Have Eyes poster in The Evil Dead, I believe. And then Wes Craven, I think, put an Evil Dead poster in Nightmare on Elm Street. Sort of to say, this is this back and forth. The fun thing, it was just done to say, this is the real horror. And so there's definitely a reason they put Star Wars in there. And the crosshairs of the laser blaster, if you will. Yeah. So after blowing that up,
he blows up the hippie driver.
He blows the hippie right out of his own van.
And then he somehow is able to transfer over into the driving seat.
Smoothly.
Their rustic desert downtown also becomes New York cityscape with no one there. It's empty.
Maybe Craig
got them to
got the word out.
Seal off the town.
Seal off the town. Get everyone out and then
don't let them go to our historic downtown area that looks like New York with walk-ups.
Exactly. The walk-up. It's. I just was looking at that going, that is not California. And Billy is just
blasting,
blowing everything up. He blows up a mailbox that's made of wood, clearly made of wood. Yeah. When it blows up, just blows up this weird little newsstand. And then a cop car comes into the picture, and he blows that up. He's just blasting all over the place.
But before we continue, we have to remember that back at the Colonel's house, all of a sudden, for the first time, his briefcase goes beep, beep.
Oh.
And all of a sudden, he's near. And then Kathy goes right to the door and opens up, and you just see the sheriff's car go by, and then Tony Craig says, was that him? It makes no sense. And then they two take off. And then they're back at the historic downtown of wherever the city is that looks like New York.
Yeah, I have no idea what the whole purpose of the laser blasting is, because if you're trying to make some ultimate warrior, this is a fail.
Yes.
Because this thing just takes over somebody and makes them a goofball just going around blowing random stuff up. Doesn't sound like a good plan.
Not at all. Not for making a super weapon. And then the aliens show up, they land on top of the building, and they just blast Billy.
They blast him for a nice long time, but he doesn't disintegrate like the first guy. How he just falls down, but the necklace and the gun are both gone. Also, doesn't Tony Craig still have the piece that's growing?
Yes.
What's going to happen?
Laserblast 2.
Does it just grow? Does it keep growing? We don't know. And it ends with Billy laying on the sidewalk. Kathy runs to him. Tony Craig is offering her no support. He's not even concerned that maybe Billy might be horribly irradiated.
Yes.
We got to keep away from this. We got to get some specialists in here. She goes, holds Billy for a good 30 seconds, and then they freeze. Then we go to credits.
Excellent way to end Laserblast.
It's just, it's a piece of work.
Yes.
It is an interesting, again, there are elements that you kind of went, there was an idea here. I could see this. And I went, do I want to? Do I want to see this? Would I want to take, why not just write something new and different and better instead of going, but this goes back to the whole idea of remake bad movies, don't remake good movies. Like somebody take Laserblast and go, let's try to flesh this out a little more. And then remake it, and we can make it better.
I agree. It honestly seemed like they wanted to make Rebel Without a Cause, but with Star Wars.
That's the pitch.
And in a desert town.
That's the pitch. It's Rebel Without a Cause meets Star Wars.
Yes.
And somebody went, whoa. And then they said,
like, stop right there. We're sold.
Then we can get Kim Milford. They show the headshot.
Yeah.
They go, whoa, he's good looking.
And he looks a lot like Mark Hamill. I'm just saying.
Right now.
That's why I got confused.
Money.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Yeah. Perfect B movie, 80 minutes.
What was left on the floor?
Maybe 1 year, the director's cut. We learn more about Operation Sandust, some backstory on Tony Craig. Maybe he fought turtle aliens in Vietnam.
Maybe an interview with Kim Milford where he explains his acting choices on the interpretive dance movements that he was using. So.
We'll never know. Anyways, that's the end of Laserblast. I hope that people take a chance to go and watch it. It was enjoyable.
It's definitely not hard to find.
Dragon's Milk, perfect for Laserblast.
This beer will laser blast you if you're not careful. So thanks again.
I'm Jason.
I'm Michael.
All right.
I have a continuity issue with Laserblast that is completely unfair because there are so many problems with this movie. I rewound it and I went, they keep showing all these people sitting around the pool, and suddenly there's no one around the pool. For some reason, that was one that stuck with me.
That's the one that's stuck.
That's where I'm.
Your line in the sand.
That's my line in the sand. That is, I'm going to die on this hill because of the pool.
Yeah.